Welcome to Magician Recaps Explains here. This movie begins with a high school student known as Daryn, getting ready for his 6 a.m. workout, while his father is timing him. Halfway through his run, he gets distracted by a song, and starts rapping along with it, causing him to miss the mark by 30 seconds. Just as he gets back home, his father reminds him that he needs to stay in shape, so that he can get into Harvard. Not like many fathers, Daryn's father is extremely dedicated to making sure that his son gets accepted into the college, and has his life planned from what he will be doing every day. One morning, Daryn's friends, Kieran and Sammy, tell him about an upcoming concert by Big Sean near them. He is an American rapper, and Daryn is a big fan. At first, he is excited to attend the concert with his friends, but soon realizes that he needs to send his application to the college, which is why he will not be able to attend the concert. However, that night, Daryn completes his application early and asks his father if he can attend the concert with his friends. His father is about to say no, but his mother intervenes them, and tells her son that he is free to go, but needs to be back by 11. Sometime later, Daryn and his friends arrive outside the venue, but when they see the crowd outside, his friends suggest that they should enter through the back entrance to get a better viewing position. Luckily for them, Daryn finds a broken fence, and they climb through it to reach the back entrance. All of them manage to stay hidden from Big Sean's security, and try to open the back door. But to their disappointment, they find that the door is locked. This is when Daryn notices a girl with turquoise hair walking through the building above them. He calls out to her, and makes up a story for her, so that she will let them join her at the top of the arena. She tells him that each of them needs to give her $50 before she can let them up. Before he can reply, security shows up, and they tell all of them to leave. While the guards are distracted by the boys, the girl takes her chance, jumps down, and rushes towards the exit. Daryn calls out to her and asks for her name, and she replies that it's Isabel. That night, Daryn finds himself obsessively searching for her online, but fails to find her profile. The next morning, Daryn goes for his usual run, when he notices Isabel working in an ice cream parlor. He then calls his friends there, so that he can go inside and ask her out. Finally gathering the courage, he goes inside and pretends to order an ice cream. Much to his surprise, Isabel recognizes him as well, but she does not give him much attention. Before we get on with it, like the video, smash that subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell to join our magical movie family. Sensing the awkward moment, Kieran places an order for the three of them. When Daryn pays for the order, he is about to add the change to her tip jar. Before he can do so, Isabel stops him, and tells him that the store has a policy where if any of the servers receive a tip, they have to sing a song for the customer. Invested, Daryn adds money into the jar, making Isabel and her co-workers sing a song for them. Once again, he adds more money into the jar, but this time Isabel storms off. She does not go far when Daryn starts rapping for her, and even asks her out. She is surprised to discover that he can rap quite well, and ends up agreeing to let him walk her home that night. Once her shift ends, Isabel finds Daryn waiting outside the store, standing in front of his fancy car. Isabel reminds him that she lives in a poor neighborhood where taking his car is a sure-shot way of getting mugged. Daryn decides to leave his car behind, and starts walking alongside her. They are interrupted by a strange man named Phil, who reminds Isabel that there are leftovers for her at home. Once Phil leaves, Daryn asks Isabel if he is her father, but she reveals that her mother left when she was a baby. Two of them get outside Isabel's house, but she does not bother inviting him inside, and agrees to go on another date with him. The next day, while Daryn is having breakfast, his father tells him that their family has been invited to a party, where an executive from Harvard's board is going to be in attendance. Daryn tells him that he has already made plans for the weekend, and looks at his mother for help. However, she backs his father up, and reminds Daryn to be at the party by 9. Because of this, Daryn decides to push his date with Isabel at an earlier time, and picks her up from her work. Isabel immediately picks up on his sour mood, and asks him to tell her more about himself. Daryn starts listing down his accomplishments, but Isabel is not impressed, and asks him what he wants to do for himself, since he has only been listing things that his parents have been expecting him to do. Daryn gets caught up, and ends up being late to the party. His father is not happy with this, and reminds him not to embarrass their family any further. After a while, Daryn and Isabel end up becoming more closer, and start going on regular dates, while he makes Isabel forget about her worries. One day, while out on a date, Daryn's father spots him with Isabel. As he returns home, his father confronts him about her, When he does not get a straight answer from Daryn, he orders him to break up with Isabel, because he thinks she is a bad influence to him. Daryn decides this time to not listen to him. He continues going on dates with Isabel, and one night, after dropping her off at home, he insists on coming inside. Once inside, he notices one of her walls covered with postcards, and asks her about them. She reveals that her mother sends her one postcard for every birthday and every Christmas. Daryn is about to say something. Isabel interrupts him by hugging him. This does not last for long, because Isabel begins to freak out and pushes Daryn away. She immediately apologizes to him, and tells him that it was a mistake before telling him to leave. This does not sit well with Daryn, and he says that he loves her, and does not understand why she is rejecting him, after she has agreed to go on several dates with him. Isabel tries to brush this off, and tells him that they can only be friends, but when Daryn keeps pushing her, she takes off her wig, and reveals that she has cancer, and has just 1 year left to live. This catches Daryn off guard, and he is unable to come up with a response. The next morning, Daryn's friends try to make him feel better, by going to a rooftop, and screaming their frustrations. The same day, his father approaches Daryn, and informs him that he should have gotten an early admissions letter from Harvard, but then reassures him that he will receive it in no time, if Daryn continues living his life according to their plan. This gives Daryn an idea, and he rushes off to Isabel's house. He shows up there with a bouquet of roses, and begs her to open the door. He tells her that he loves her, and he wants to live the best life with her, in the 1 year she has left. Behind him, Phil shows up, and overhears his confession, making him happy for the two of them. After several minutes of begging, Isabel finally decides to open the door, and agrees to his plan. Over the next few days, Daryn comes up with a plan on how they are going to perform all of the milestones in 1 year, and the first milestone is buying a house together. Daryn pretends to be a millionaire rapper while Isabel pretends to be his girlfriend. They joke around, but when Isabel asks Daryn to rap in front of everyone, he freezes. Seeing this, Isabel grabs his hands, and the two of them run off. The next milestone is celebrating several birthdays together, to make up for all the birthdays she would not get to celebrate. They also cover the milestone of graduation by wearing robes and caps, and holding a fake ceremony for the two of them. Together they cross out several milestones, and Daryn even takes Isabel to her chemotherapy sessions. During one of her sessions, Isabel tells him about a man named Simon, who has prostate cancer, and the two of them have placed a bet over who will die first. Daryn does not like thinking about her dying. One day, Isabel takes him to meet a man named Ron, who is actually a music producer. She pushes Daryn forward and forces him to rap, so that they can record a demo for him. At first, Daryn feels uncomfortable, and finds himself not being able to rap, but when Isabel mocks him for always following his father's plans, he starts rapping. The catchy lyrics not only impress Isabel but Ron as well, who later gives him a copy of the demo track. Once he gets back home, Daryn finds himself listening to the rap on repeat. The two of them continue to cross out milestones until it is time for the proposal. But when he finally proposes to her, Isabel breaks down, and rejects it, since this only reminds her of the fact that she is never going to have a real proposal. Days pass by, and Isabel starts to get sicker until one day, Daryn invites her over to his house for Christmas dinner. Even though Daryn does not get the chance to warn his father about Phil, he is surprised to see him being friendly and welcoming with both Isabel and Phil. Things take a turn for the worse in the middle of dinner, when Isabel gets into an argument with Daryn's father over school not being the center of everyone in the universe. Daryn's father gets angry at the disrespect, and insults Isabel by telling her that girls like her have no future. Having had enough of the disrespect, Phil and Isabel end up leaving, but Daryn remains quiet, and doesn't defend Isabel after his father's insults. Isabel refuses to talk to Daryn, but he still watches her from afar. At the same time, he finds himself busy meeting Harvard executives, trying to ensure his smooth admission into the college. However, when the executive asks him to tell him about himself, Daryn is reminded of the conversation he had with Isabel, and confesses that getting into Harvard is no longer a priority for him. Back at home, he gets into an argument with his father, who tells Daryn that he has destroyed his future. For the first time in his life, Daryn yells back at his father, and breaks the plan board in his office. He tells him that these plans are not what he has wanted. Daryn's father becomes furious, and is about to hit him, but his mother stops him at the last moment. After Daryn leaves the room, his mother tells his father that she will not support him over something that will cause them to lose their son. Meanwhile, Daryn visits Isabel and apologizes to her for not defending her in front of his father. Eventually, she forgives him, and the two of them make up. She finds herself back in her house, with the doctor in her living room talking to Phil and Daryn. The doctor tells them that Isabel's cancer is rapidly spreading, and the only thing they can do for her is to manage the pain. Daryn then spends the next few days with Isabel, and taking care of her. One night, he falls asleep on the chair in her room. When he wakes up in the morning, he hears his mother talking to Phil. She tells him to take a break, while she takes care of Isabel for him. Instead of hanging out with his friends, Daryn goes to Ron's studio and records a song for Isabel. Later that night, as he enters Isabel's house, he finds her passed out on the floor. He rushes her to the hospital, where the doctor informs them that there is nothing more that they can do for her, since the cancer has not stopped spreading. This causes Daryn to have a meltdown in front of everyone, until his mother calms him down. Forced to accept their new reality, Daryn decides to contact Isabel's mother one last time, so that they can make up before she dies. A few days later, while Daryn is out, Isabel discovers a new song he had recorded for her, and listens to it while crying. Meanwhile, Daryn's father goes into his room, and finds his demo CD in the room. He ends up listening to it and realizes how talented his son is. Meanwhile, Isabel plans one last surprise for Daryn with the help of his friends. They take Daryn to Phil's club, and they dress him up in a tux, and make him stand at the end of the aisle. Soon, Phil escorts Isabel down the aisle in a wheelchair, and they get married in an intimate ceremony. That night, Isabel passes away peacefully while sleeping next to Daryn. He is surprised when his father attends the funeral, and apologizes to him for treating him horribly. After a while, Daryn heads to New York for his music career. When he turns on the radio in his car, he discovers that Isabel had submitted his demo to the radio station, before passing away. And there you have it, Life in a Year movie recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more interesting movie recap. Also shares and leave us a comment about what you think about this movie. See you next time.